What's going on, everybody? This is Bunjamin Bakcho. I bring you another F122 video. I'm not really sure if I want to place this in a Road to Master rank series, but this is Ranked Lobbies. First race here is at Jeddah. We were disqualified in qualifying because I track extended on like the third corner, but there was only like 4 guys in the lobby when we first started, and then other people jumped on in. So we did still manage to start P4. We're starting with a time trial setup here, except with the tire pressures set to minimal. And I decided to start on the mediums here just because the qualifying times were kind of slow. So I figured if I'm going to be stuck behind traffic, I might as well start on the slow tire. And you'll have to excuse my... Yeah, this is weird grid. There's nobody in the P2 spot. But yeah, you'll have to excuse my starts. They're really terrible. I still haven't figured out a way to get good starts yet. I spent like an hour working on it, but still haven't figured it out. But anyway, we start off on the first lap here. We lose a position, but we also gain a position, so we end up in P3. And then, yep, first few corners, and there's already a mess. We get passed by Obi in the Ferrari there. Another Ferrari right behind us, looking to get past us, and we pretty much let him by fucking it up right here. And then I didn't realize I was in reverse, and got back on the track and started going backwards, so that was real fun. Anyway, we dropped all the way down to P5, all the way down. We were only in P3, but yeah, we're at the back of the grid now, and we are on the mediums at this point because there were like 1 or 2 guys that joined the lobby after qualifying. I wasn't really sure how fast the other 2 guys were, but I was pretty confident at this point that I'd still be able to catch up with at least 2 of them just because they were 4 seconds slower in qualifying. So I'm gonna skip a little bit to when we start catching up to some of these cars, which isn't really even much of a cut just because Sparky ends up pitting on the start of lap 2. I'm assuming he got some sort of wing damage, so that is 1 spot made up. Johnny Naldo in P3, 3.5 seconds ahead. So we'll just have to be driving a little bit careful here to try and catch up to him. And then the yellow flag comes out, and Johnny Naldo is sitting still on the side of the track there. So 2 positions down in really quick succession. And then we have TC Boric, P2, about 3 seconds ahead, and OB637 about 5 seconds ahead. And you can see we've already cut the gap to under 2 seconds with the Mercedes in P2. So didn't look like it was going to be too tough, and it was going to be a pretty easy race for our first ranked lobby. So just skipping ahead towards the end of the lap, and as you can see now, we've already caught up to TC Boric here, a little under half a second behind him. I always get really nervous in these situations just because there was so much contact in the first lap that I'm not really sure who caused it, and I always hate passing without DRS, but we just turned on the overtake. Even without DRS, we blew right by him anyway, and luckily for us, he didn't put up too much of a fight. I think he kind of saw us coming at him at a rate of knots, and just probably decided to not defend too hard and help his own race out. But anyway, now we just have 1 guy out in front of us, and he is on softs, and we've been cutting the gap pretty much once we got out of that spin on lap 1. So again, not too difficult here, already almost at 1 second, and then once we hit DRS, we should be fine. Setting purple sector after purple sector, and he is on the softs, so he must know what's coming as we draw the gap closer and closer to 1 second. I'm not really quite sure what the rules are set to in ranked lobbies. Last year I know it was like regular quarter cutting stringency, and I wasn't really a big fan of that just because people were cutting corners constantly. But I think this year it might be a little bit, I'm not sure. I hope it is strict because I got disqualified in qualifying, but it might just be strict in qualifying. But anyway, end of lap 3 here, we've caught up to OB637. Got DRS in this DRS zone, and then we're about to get DRS off him down the start finish straight as well. He was on the softs, so I was hoping he didn't get a very good exit, which he really didn't. So we turn on the overtake, still at almost 80% ERS as we set another fastest lap. Kudos to him, he fought pretty hard through this corner, but he kept it clean, which is really rare to see in even ranked lobbies. But yeah, he didn't he was aggressive, but he wasn't dirty, which I always appreciate. So we ended up passing him there, and that was pretty much it for our first race. From here on out, it was just smooth sailing, and we ended up winning by over a minute, I think. So we're just jumping on to the last lap, and yeah, over a minute to P3 and just about a minute to Johnny Naldo in P2. They did have to stop twice. I think Johnny Naldo and TC Borek stopped twice. I'm assuming it's because they had to stop so early in the race that they had to make another pit stop to get on another pair of softs. But we ended up winning by close to and over a minute with the rest of these guys. So it was a pretty successful first Ranked Lobby race for us. And yeah, it was not as close as I was expecting it to be. I figured it's been 2 months since the release of the game. Anybody that's in Ranked Lobby that has a rank, I think these guys were like silver rated drivers. I assume the race would be a little bit closer, but there was a lot of contact in that first lap, and two of these guys had to pit super early, so I don't know. It might have been a lot closer had they not had contact on that first lap, but we managed to pull it out, and that is our first win in Ranked Lobbies. So now we're jumping into our second race. There was a little bit time between the first and the second race here at France, so it's going to be a whole different lobby. But we managed to qualify on pole. The guy in P2 actually qualified pretty close to us. I let off the throttle down the start-finish straight at the end of qualifying just to kind of make my time a little bit slower to kind of throw everybody off. So he did finish about a 10th behind us, but I think if I'd have kept on the throttle, I probably would have finished about half a second in front of him. But anyway, you're about to see a terrible start again as we start on the mediums here. I'm not sure if Ranked Lobbies allows assists, but it seems like everybody else seems to get a much better start than us for some reason. So I brake kind of early here just because we're going in 3 wide, and of course animals behind us, they just don't bother braking on time or paying attention to the cars in front of them. So we end up getting rear-ended there and losing positions, dropping all the way down to P6. I'm about to make this right-hand turn here, and then another fucking idiot here. I really can't stand it. Yeah, another idiot just dive bombs. He was never making that corner, of course not, but didn't stop him from dive bombing anyway. So he ends up with a 3-second penalty, and we've dropped all the way down to the back of the grid here. So the guy that started in P2 is now in P7, Demi Dukes. I feel bad for him because he had a really good qualifying and had an amazing start, and he probably would have made it had it not been for the contact. So I'm just going to show a replay of the start here. Again, terrible start from us, but P2 and P3 had actually really good start. And I noticed we were about to go in 3 wide, so I braked really, not really early, kind of early, but we were about to sandwich the guy in the middle. It does look like Demi Dukes there was putting the squeeze on, but once we got rear-ended, we went into the other cars, and we lost a whole bunch of positions. But look at how far I am ahead of this guy, and I've already hit the brakes, and he just sent it in anyway. He was never making that corner, and yeah, just kind of ruined our race for us before it even got started there. But anyway, no use crying over spilt milk. Like I said in another video before, when I got into a whole bunch of contact 2 races in a row, it's happened before, it'll happen again, but yeah, it's just really annoying. At least with those races at Austria, you can kind of understand it. People make mistakes pushing a little bit too hard, but it just seems like there it's just people were just being idiotic and not paying attention. But we end up catching up to this Lucas Artur 65 guy here. A little bit all over the place. I'm not really sure what some of these guys are doing. If he's on controller or a gamepad, I can understand that. But yeah, just a little bit out of control there. Christian Baroncini pits, 8 seconds of penalties. I'm pretty sure he was the guy that was responsible for knocking us out one of the 2 times. So good for him for having to pit there. But next time we make it around to the start of the next lap, there's a couple more guys in the pit. Looks like about 3 more guys. So we do end up making our way up to P4, setting the fastest lap there. And I hate it when I see people with time penalties on lap 3, because either they're driving like an idiot or they're just very slow drivers, and they don't know how to take corners correctly. But as you can see, Naexor in P3 has a 3-second penalty, and I'm pretty sure that's the idiot that hit us on lap 1. So I'm not really looking forward to catching up to him, as I know, even though I'll be quicker than him, he'll probably be an asshole and either fight way too hard against somebody that's so much quicker than him, or he's just going to be an idiot and knock us off track again. But it doesn't even take long for us to catch up to him. We are now within a second of him at the start of the next lap, and just looking at his lines, you can tell probably not the most skilled driver here. I don't know if he's on wheel or gamepad. His movements are pretty smooth, but they're also pretty erratic. So he's probably a very novice wheel user, as he goes out wide on the right-hand turn, and then just kind of all over the place. So I get DRS and I put on the overtake. He doesn't have a front wing, and the idiot is trying to push us out onto the outside of the track there. I brake late just because I'm assuming he's going to dive bomb me anyway, just the way he's been driving earlier, but he actually doesn't. So I guess that's one positive of racing against him. But we were about 7 seconds behind, and because of his idiotic defending, now we're about 8.5 seconds behind the leaders now. And yeah, I don't understand this. When you're that much slower and you have wing damage, why bother defending so hard? You know you're clearly slower. You're losing time defending hard like that. I just don't understand it. Why not just tuck in behind, get the DRS? If you're not going to pit for a new front wing, then at the very least tuck in behind and get DRS. But after he defends like a moron, then he pits anyway. I don't really understand that with a 3-second penalty. And being clearly slower. I know I usually try to be nice to people that I'm racing against, but I can't stand when people just drive like complete morons like that and ruin everybody else's race. But yeah, anyway, now that idiot is out of the way, we can just close the gap into the leaders here. And as we come to the start of lap 6 here, Lilski in P2 pits for the softs. I think he's a little bit early, so I think we still had like 3 more laps to go until our scheduled stop, but he must be trying to get an undercut or something. And we've cut the gap down to 47.50 in P1 now, to about 5 and a little over 5.5 seconds, and the gap is dropping. So as of right now, I'm still feeling good about this. I'm planning on going until at least lap 8. I think lap 8 was a scheduled stop. But because Lilski pitted so early onto the softs, his tires are probably going to start dying in about 3 or 4 laps. So by the time we're scheduled for our pit stop, his tires will start going. So I'm going to try to stay out as long as I can to try to extend that gap. Just looking at the pace that he had before he pitted, I figured even us being on used medium tires, we'd probably still be able to be faster, or at the very least as fast as him on brand new softs. So the gap now to the leader is about 5 seconds, so we are still working on that. I go out wide here, which doesn't really help my race. So we do fall back to a little bit over 5 seconds to the leader. I'm not quite sure at this point yet if the leader is going to respond to Lilski pitting early. He does. So now I know that those 2 guys have pitted like 2 or 3 laps earlier than they were scheduled to. So I'm not really quite sure if their softs are going to last. So at this point, I decided I'm just going to go until I think it's going to be the end of lap 8, and then change onto the softs to see if we can close that gap using pit strategy. So now we've come to the end of lap 8, about to start lap 9, and I decided that I'm going to pit. And I'm not really sure about this France pit entry. I'm not really sure what constitutes a good entry and a bad entry, as I seem to have taken the same pit entry that I generally do most of the time, and this time I got penalized, whereas other times I don't get penalized, but I got a 5-second penalty anyway. I serve it right away, which I don't really like. I feel like I would have easily won this race if they would have just let me go out right now, but they end up making me sit and serve the 5-second penalty in the pit lane. Now at this point, Lilski has dropped back, and William 008 has jumped up to P3, but he's on the hards. And as we exit the pit lane here, the gap is about 8.5 seconds. And we have about 4 laps left to go. So now going to the start of lap 10, the gap has dropped down to 7 seconds, which is actually pretty encouraging considering we were still on cold tires on that first lap. Decided to pushed a little too hard. We ended up going off track there, losing a little bit of time. And now we've fallen back a little bit, so the gap is at about 12 seconds now as we hunt down the leader. But we still have about 4 laps left to go, you know, lap 11, 12, 13 in the last part of this lap. And considering the pace of the leader, I thought we still had a chance there. And as we jump to the final lap here, we're about 3.5 seconds behind the leader. So if I hadn't gotten that penalty and had to serve it in the pit lane, or if I didn't make that dumb push on turn 1 and spun off, then we definitely would have won this. Also, it wouldn't have even been a competition if we didn't get rear-ended twice on lap 1. But we ended up making a comeback all the way up to P2 anyway. And look how adorable this is. You know, our fastest lap was a good 1 second faster. We got rear-ended twice on the first lap, and then we closed out like 12-second gap in the last 4 laps. But this guy's really proud of still winning the race anyway. I know I sound kind of salty, but after today, with all the contact that we took, I'm just a little bit done with it. So I think I have the right to be a little bit salty. But we make it back up to P2 anyway, so I'm pretty happy with that. On to the third race here at Singapore. It was a wet qualifying. We ended up qualifying on pole. I think the game recommended starting on the mediums, and luckily everybody else started on the mediums, so even if we have a terrible start, hopefully we won't fall back too much. Right away, P5 jump starts and gets a drive-through penalty. Coming to turn 1 here, we got proximity arrows there. I tried to leave a little bit of space, but P2 just decides to drive us into us anyway. Get a collision warning there with Getty, who's dropped down to P4 now. And then we just continue our way through lap 1 here. Bill in P2 actually gave us a pretty good fight for our money here on the first lap. He ended up staying pretty close to us, but I didn't really use much ERS on this first lap, and I'm assuming that he was spamming his overtake, just because if you can see through the mirror, he's not really taking the corners all that great, but he's still able to keep within about a second behind us. So I'm assuming that he's using ERS on the straights to make up for pretty poor corners there. And then once we get to like lap 2 or 3, Singapore is notoriously known for not having really great ERS harvesting. So he probably wasted it all on that first lap. We just about pulled out of DRS here as we come down this straight. And I think it was right at this point I started realizing this was going to be an easy race. As you can see, he's closed back up just to under a second there for a moment. And then as soon as we hit some more corners again, he's again back over 1 second. So I'm pretty sure I was right in assuming that he was using ERS on these straights, even the really short straights, to kind of close that gap back up to us. But again, as soon as we go through the chicanes, I think there was like 2 or 3 chicanes in a row there, we've opened the gap back up, and that was as close as anybody got to us for the rest of the race. So nobody wants to watch 15 laps of just me being in P1. I'll just skip to the end here just so you can kind of see a complete lap. But yeah, that was the first 3 of our ranked lobby races. A victory at Jeddah, P2 at France, that probably should have been a victory, and then another victory at Singapore here. But yeah, I think I'll continue with these ranked lobby races. The only thing that really happened at this race in Singapore was me realizing at like lap 7 that I really underfueled the car. So a lap or two before I pitted on to the softs, I ended up having to lift off through almost every single corner and was still extending the gap to the guy in P2. So it was a really boring race, but we did end up finishing it and winning the race out front. So, but yeah, first 3 races in the bag, victory, P2, and victories. I think it's a good start to our master rank episode. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I'll get some more of these out there, and yeah, stay tuned for more, guys. I think I'm gonna actually complete the master rank challenge this year for the first time, and like actually for the first time ever, I've never completed a master rank challenge. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you think I've earned it, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And if I talk shit about you in this race, don't take it personally. I'll probably forget about it by the time I wake up tomorrow anyway, and totally forget who you are. So no hard feelings. But yeah, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. I'll see you guys in the next one.